in your final assignment, whether you're going to get a primary data or the secondary data, I will ask you on the integrities of your surveys. So if it's a secondary data, you need to know how did they collected this data, whether their questionnaires was right, did they ask the right questions. So if this does not go directly to your assignment, you need to really be ready for answering these questions when you're presenting your final assignment, because this is what will happen when you do a marketing research to your future boss. He needs to know, how did you collect this data? Where did you collect it from? Did you ask the right questions? If you only collected it as a secondary data, to which site did you collected it from the secondary data? Is there questionnaires, was credentials or not? So you want to make sure if you're collecting a secondary data, you're collecting it from a very well-known, a market researchers or a government sites that represent these information. Otherwise, there would be questions, how did you collect this data, and how did you really um, validated the research. So you want to be careful when you even picking the secondary data. Besides you do the research, the information that you're going to collect, you want to validate these informations also. Now, we will go with this next chapter. And in the next chapter, what we will talk about is the qualitative uh, data analysis. So how we gonna want to make sure that the data that we are collecting is the right data, and how do we analyze it. Now, here we're not doing a quantitative, we're doing a qualitative data analysis. So in this chapter, what you will have, the objective of learning will be basically contrast the qualitative and quantitative data analysis, what's the difference between them, and explain the steps in the qualitative data analysis, and describe the process of categorizing and coding data in developing theory. So when you do a data analysis for a qualitative research, how you gonna categorize it and how you're gonna code it and how you develop a theory from your hypothesis. Clarify how credible in establish the qualitative data. So if you are collecting the secondary data, you need also to establish the credibilities of that data. Also discuss the steps involved in writing develop a qualitative research report. So once you collect all these qualitative, you need to drive a summary from what you have collected and what kind of research and result the things has resulted for you. The nature of the qualitative data analysis is the accuracy of qualitative analysis is based on the rigor of the process followed while you're collecting and analyze the data. Qualitative research is useful in providing a knowledge for decision maker. So when your boss tell you, please find out for us in the market what kind of a hamburger, middle class when they go to McDonald's or to Burger King ask, because he's planning to probably do something similar in his restaurant. Um, so you need to do the benefit research that aims to understand the psychoanalysis or the cultural phenomena there. And for sure, an old man would not ask for a happy meal unless he is not very hungry. Now, so the the issues is here is the fact that the qualitative versus the quantitative analysis is there is a different approach to it. So the qualitative data is textual and visual. You know, remember the smile, the writing thing, the open-end questions. These are qualitative. Goal is to increase understanding, to understand more this phenomena, what's happening, why people are purchasing certain thing in certain time, for example. Uh, it's ongoing and irritative. So we will talk about how you keep changing, going again and again to do these qualitative data. It's not a one-time start. As the video said, it's while you're doing your business and you keep doing it before your business and after while you're doing your business too. Employ members checking member checking, asking key information to read a research report to verify and accurate. There's lots of you probably will be doing some analysis and qualitative, collecting qualitative data from the customers and inductive in nature, not predictive. But the quantitative data is a numerical. So there is a percentage, how many percentage said yes, how many percentage said no, how many percentage are very extremely happy, less happy, satisfied, dissatisfied, all these kind of numerical things. And the goal to quantify the magnitude of variables and the relationship. So if you are looking for focus group, not as a focus group, like it tells you the chi-square, the normal distributions of these people and how magnitude it is. It guide you entirely, it guided entirely by a researcher, and there is no interview person, no psychology person there, nobody who is really interpreting the information. It's only numbers and is done by the researchers and describe the categories. So you just you try when you're trying to target certain market, you try to separate and categorize the market. So you wanted to describe the different categories, the themes, a pattern, a period of data in the period of that to data collections. So we said this is the qualitative iterative, and is basically what you do is in the first step, you do a data collection, and then you try to do it in a a chart or something, and there is a easy to read the data display. In the same time, you do something called a data reduction. So you're trying to really uh, eliminate a parts that is not really related to the subject, and then you come up with a conclusion. And from data display and data reduction, you will go and do the data drawing and verifying. And when you do a data verifying, it's again, you're doing the same circle to a data display and data reduction. So it is an ongoing service. So when you do a data verifying, sorry, you go again to do a data collection. And this is ongoing probably every 3 months or every 6 months or a monthly base. And this can, with the time is changing, because you could be doing a data collection. You find out this restaurant has a good chance of, having a big size of customers, but you notice lots of restaurants goes down, and because they're not adjusting to the trend of the market, the tastes of the people keep changing, so they are not adjusting to it. And because why they're not doing that? Because they're not doing a qualitative and interactive models as you see. So you can, as a researcher, you might be doing it every 3 months, every 6 months, every year, something like that. So data reduction, it's about the categorizing and coding of data, and Part of the theory is development process in the qualitative data analysis. So you try to make sense of the data that you collected, and because it could be an open-ended question, there is part of the question that you answer that you're looking for to select the and code it. Consists of interrelated process, and we saw in the previous slide how these process is connected to each other and keep reviewing and returning back to it. So we said is the categorization. So you do a categorization, and you do, based, for example, if you're looking for age, so you do a categorization of age, and then within their answer, you do some coding in their coding for that. You do a theory building. So we said, first of all, you go with the objective, which is you probably have an hypothesis and a few answers for them. And then you plan to do, from these driven hypotheses, you do your market research, and then you build your theory. Uh, this irritation, as we said, iterations, and we said is always you're going to do a process every 3 months, every 6 months, or a year, whatever is the target. Step in data reduction is you categorize you do categorization and placing a portion of your transcript into a similar group. So is like you highlight part of the answers, which is very similar in that age or in across the age sectors, and you want to find the common thing. It's more analysis. It's like reading a book, and when you read a book, somebody asks you, can you write a summary of the book? So you might have over thousands of qualitative data, and then you try to summarize it in a few pages. And to do this, as we said, you can do a coding for it. Document contain the themes or categories or particular studies, codes or labels or numbers used to track it. So you put into a qualitative data. So you might put a label, I don't know, smile, not unsatisfied, or numbers from 1 to 10 with these coding. So this, when you find this part of the open answer or part of the answer relate to that number, so you put it there, and this is how you code the things. It's a comparison, developing and refining a theory and construct by analyzing different and similar themes of target persona. So you see, the whole thing is in the qualitative data is to drive a construct. But to drive the construct of the person, why he's doing this, you need to find, best thing I can put it, find the signs, the sign that indicated he will behaving in this uh, system. It is, we do that in our everyday life. When we see somebody is walking and not straight, the first thing that comes in mind is he could be a drunk. So that's a construct behavior. But is actually what we are looking for. It might be, he might not be a drunk person, and he just have a body disorder or something like that. But it is a science that you build to drive your hypothesis to be a theory. Now, integration process of moving from identification of theme and categories to development of theory. So we said that you started with hypothesis and you did your research, and then in the end of that, you're trying to process the theme, the whole understanding, and the categorize to start doing a theory. You set up a theory. It is a theory when you say 60% of these people with this age and this income will be buying your offer, your service, or your food. So that's a theory you're building, and it's a recursive is a relationship in which a variable can both that's cause and be caused. Sometimes you need to watch for that by the same variable. For example, if you say job satisfaction, you're searching for a job satisfaction, and you say better income, more raise of salary will increase the job satisfaction. Well, that's right. So when you become satisfied, you will be producing more, and then you will get more raise, and then you increase your jobs. It is like a circle going on. So that's what we call a recursive relationship. Then you need to, start building a storyline around the core category. So when you did selective coding, the reason you want to do a selective coding because you want to build some kind of a storyline, something to summarize. And then when you read a book and while you're reading, you say a city made of 10 small towns, and there is somebody is getting, I don't know, their house is stolen. So you come up with a conclusion, and these cities, small towns are not, they kind of not connected to each other. People don't travel between them. So you're going to say, oh, everybody has some kind of a house. You are building a story when you're doing a core categories. Other categories are related or sub-used to it. The irritation, now iteration, working through the data server time to modify the early ideas. So this is where we say, in you saw it in the in the slide that you do a visibilities for your studies when you do, and then you try to change it to a chart or a pie chart or something that you look at it, and then you do a reductions of the data, and you go through a conclusion verifiable, and then from the verifiable you might every 3 months you do another process to just keep this circle modifying the information ongoing, for example, every 3 months, as I said, or 6 months or a year. Memoizing or memoizing is a writing down thought as soon as possible after each interview. So you just keep your thoughts, writing it down. When you do a focus group, see the reaction, because what you're doing is really you're doing some as was Sigmund Freud said, psychoanalysis things. You're doing the feedback of their body moves, they respond, the way they respond, especially in the focus group. And we're not going to take that much about negative analysis. Is kind of just like a null hypothesis, where you say it's not going to deliberately looking for a case an instant that contradict the idea. So you're not looking for prove the idea. You start looking for something that does not establish your theory, because you need to criticize your hypothesis and your theory. So you start looking for something showing that it will um, eliminate all misunderstanding of your surveys result. Now, role of tabulation is the role when you start looking at, your result and start putting marks and numbers to it. And it's use a qualitative analysis, and is a controversial. Tabulation of data may mislead. So the qualitative, you're trying to make it to a quantitative, and it might mislead the readers. For example, if you are talking about, you're doing your collection, your data, and you come back and you say, well, I see this town or the city, most of the people are walking without shoes. Maybe they prefer a slipper. You say 90% they're wearing the slippers when they walk. This is a misleading, because is that good to establish market issues there or not good? So tabulations without data explanation, it could be very misleading. So when you bring me you're saying, okay, I went to this city, I did the research, and I found out 90% of the people wearing the slippers. Um, when I see 90% wearing the slippers, I can look at it and say, okay, so I can sell shoes because 90% are now wearing shoes. The other person is looking at it and says, oh, there is no market for the selling shoes because there's only 10 people or 90% are wearing the slippers. So it's tabulation of data may mislead the readers. Um, it only helps quantify the themes that occurred repeatedly and promote the honest research. It shows that whether you have done the right, the credential research that you have done, whether it was an honest and credential or not. Um, Data display, the common types is, excuse me, table that explain the central theme in a study. So um, when you see a pie chart and you see different colors in the pie chart, and you see like a, they show the display, and you see like a big one, say 60 or 70% or 180 with the red. This is like a table that explain a central theme in the studies. When you look at the variabilities, how variable, how valid, and data distribution. It is explain the central theme in your study. As we said, this is the diagram that suggests the relationship between the variables. And sometimes, for example, it could be one pie chart, or it could be a few circles, and there is a common circles between 3 or 4 of them, which is I do see you see them. Where is the common thing? For example, if you have 2 circles connected to each other, the common is the middle one. So the middle one is probably is the relationship. It could be done in a matrix for a various theme for representative information. Now, the other thing that we wanted to talk about it is a drawing conclusion and verifying results. You know, all your research would be a waste if you're not able to establish a credential research. That, if, in other words, if I don't believe that you have done a right research, there is 2 things I can do. One thing, I can ignore it, and the second thing that I can ask you back, and you need to do a verifying information. So, and sometimes it could be, I'm looking at your result, 6 months down the road, or 3 months, or 1 year. And if you're not there, it might be unacceptable for me to look for you to find out what made you drive to this information. And the first thing that to be in safe is just I will ignore your research. And this what's happened. So you want to make sure that you are doing a research that's a credential. There is lots of research done in a market. Um, you know, it is not true, or it's a false, or trying to drive some information, and people became cynical regard of these some of these research, and the reason is, you know, there is when the research is false, everybody knows about it. When the research is good, is as people don't talk about it that much. Let me give you an example. Um, There was a town in USA, in the South. I think there was, I'm not sure if it's in Houston or in Arizona, somewhere like that. And they had a nice natural places. Suddenly, these people there, they started having some visitors as a tourist. But what happened to them, they started, feeling uncomfortable with the number of the tourists are increasing. So they made announce of a research that they done, and they said, for example, the attack by crocodile has been increased 100%. And they said that we have done the research. Now, nobody thought that, okay, the fact that last year there was one person was attacked by a crocodile, and this year 2 people were attacked by a crocodile. Meanwhile, there were an increase of 10 times of visitors. So this is probably is a one-sided and not verified, and not probably it's not a credential research. It's just they want to drive something behind the scene to keep the increasing numbers of tourists to come in there. So we have lots of these, research are being done where they go blinded about something to drive something. So when you do your research, you want to make sure that your research is a credential, and you have one of the process of doing the credential is verifying your result. When you and this would be a part of your studies to verifying the result and to drawing a conclusion from it. So so if if you wanted to write something, they say, well, increase the visitors was in that city was 10 times, but the attack was 100 times increase, then it left you without understanding what is 100 times. But if you say it's increased from 10 times, we had 1,000 visitor, but now we have 10,000 visitor in that time of the day, of month. And in that time, we had one attack, but now we last year we had 2 attacks. So people would make, draw the right conclusion and verifying their, the research properly. Now, so the data analysis is considered credible when the results are valid and reliable. So be careful when you are coming up with your marketing research final assignment. This is what I'm going to look at it. How valid, how reliable is your research? Where did you collect this data? Did you do a literature research? Did you verify this result? How they can you criticizing what part is weakness in this, or how you're going to look at, evaluating these parts of this information. So emic validity is affirm that the key member within the culture or subculture agree with the finding of a research report. Cross-research reliability, um, the degree of similarity, the coding of the same data uh, by a different researcher. So here is a different researcher, they done this research. So if you say, I've done this research, I've collected the secondary data from different organizations, and they came up with the same result or similar result, then it's a kind of a cross-research reliability is there. So it's a very important that you look at this part of it. Now, credibility is the degree of rigorous believability and trustworthy established by the qualitative research. So do I believe in that? Did you make me believe in that? This is what makes a research very credible. Now, as I said, not everything you find it in the internet or in a Facebook, it's true. But it started way long ago with, and some of us will, enjoy these newspapers, and they converted to, online mostly. Um, you know, one man with 1 foot, I don't know, big foot, people coming from different world coming here, um, um, aliens, all these things it's not credible anymore. Addressing the analysis from a multiple perspectives. So this is where you are doing a triangulations and multiple data collection and analysis method. You do a multiple data set of research and time period, and you have a different kind of a relevant research information. That's all belongs to a primary data, but when you collect the secondary data, you need also to find out how they did the data collection and how they did the analysis. And usually you will, in the beginning or in the end, you will see a fine print explaining these things, how it's done, the multiple data set, the research, the time period that they did, probably all these information available there. Now, when you're trying to draw a conclusion, you also want to make sure you have a peer review, external qualitative methodology or topic that are specialized or asked to review it. Somebody is probably in a real market. You cannot, because you might be a bias, or you can be, goal driven, and you adjust, you see these things, but you see it a way that you are thinking. Now, you see, there is something let me get into a philosophy part very quickly. Now, when we talk about a brain, most of us, what we think is really, when we see something, a picture of this comes to our brain, and this is why we are seeing this. So an objective, we're looking at it. For example, I'm looking at my hand, and then whatever the picture of my hand goes through my eyes, and my eyes sits on my brain, a picture of that. Now, this is how we've been believing in rest of our life. We see this, so it's a picture on our brain, and we start and say, I can move my hand, and there is no hand, but still in my brain there is a hand. So actually, what's happening here is not the picture of the hand, it's on my brain. My brain will be creating some process to create something similar to this hand, where they match each other in the eyes. So when you see a hand, my brain will be uh, processing something, and instead of we taking it in, no, we are meeting in a middle ground there where I'm building something very similar to this in my mind. Because why I'm saying that, because when I'm disappearing, when I don't show my hand, I'm still can imagine my hand is up and can see it there, but it's not there anymore. So when you're doing a research, sometimes your mind will give you something that is not existed in the market. So you need somebody who also looks, and when he looks at it, says, okay, this is a hand, and I'm looking at this is a hand. So both of us can see it's a hand. So when you're doing a research, you need a peer review to see whether he's seeing or she's seeing things that the way you are seeing them, to double check these things. So this is a total change of many things in life, affects the way or the methodology that we are working, uh, seeing things, whether it comes direct from seeing things or whether the brain is building it. So I might be looking at a castle and could be in my mind is a very well broken house. The second person is looking at the castle and sees it's a castle. So the mind is a different way of working, and the research is basically this is how we're going to do the research. Now, before we finish this class, writing the report for your group assignment, you need to look at this, how you're going to do it. And you have to look at it, whichever is applicable for you. And this is how you write it. First, you need to do an introduction. When you do an introduction, you set me up to understand what you are writing about and how you're doing this analysis. Then you do your introduction. I need to see the research objectives, what you are researching about it, um, the research questions, and the description of research methods. So you're collecting secondary data, but you need to let me know, where did you collect the secondary data? Did you collect it from a Facebook? Somebody made an announcement from a junk mail, or from a credential places? Then analyze of the data and finding. So you need, first, you just analyze it. You don't need to tell me your theory. You just analyze it. And in the first section, part of it, we said when you do an introduction, you're building an hypothesis and you're doing your research objective based on the hypothesis that they had. And then you do the data analysis and finding. Then you need to do the literature review and relevant secondary data if you doing a primary data. But if you're doing only secondary data, still I need to see what you are writing about. So the literature, behind the information that you're looking for. Then you need to display the data. So it's whether it's in a pie chart or in a chart or something is visible, should be numbers. And then you, in the end, you need to do interpretation and the summary of findings. So this is what this data drives to. And then when it drives to, then you need to do an interpretation for that. So you say, for example, your objective is to see whether the city can buy Mercedes. And these are the questions: how much your income, your class, male, female, all these questions, research questions. And then you do the description of the research, and then you do the analysis part of it. And in the end, you need to do a conclusion and recommendation. So if you're going to write an assignment and you want to get a good mark, you have to do it this way. You cannot move things around because this would not drive a credential to your research. So component and methodology section of a qualitative report, topic covered and material used in the questions, locations, date, time, and contents of the observations, number of research involved and the degree of involvement, whether you're doing a pre-crude for choosing informants, number of informants and informant characteristics, what you are looking for, number of focus group. If you are doing a focus group, as I said, there is some of these, the research that I'm talking about, it could be very applicable to your research because it's a standard, but some of them now, it might not be applicable to your research that you're gonna do. Total number of pages, pictures, videos, and research memos, procedures used to ensure that systematic data collection and analysis, procedures used for a negative case analysis. I assume that you might, you just want to reject your hypothesis. That's the best way to find out whether your hypothesis is right or not. You need to mention the limitation of method. Why, what, when you drove this knowledge, you have to saw the whole picture and says, where is the limitation, where I couldn't do, the reports. Now, as we said, you do analysis of data or finding. It is about the sequence of reported finding in a written, logical, and persuasive. When you get these data, you have to write, change it to writing, very summarize it in a very legal, logical way and persuasive manner. As we said, the display that summarize, clarify, and provide evidence for ascension include that. And it's quoted from the research participant that used in the research report. You need to say how many, you not only say, okay, I found the secondary data saying this theory built in. You need to dig in further to know how did they do the research, what kind of research they did, how many people they did the questions, all these behind to make it connectable. Now, the recommendations that you need to write the conclusion and the recommendation. What do you recommend? Contain information that's relevant to the research problem, articulate, and probably some client highlight. But in this case, you might explain who is doing this research for you. As I said, when you're a group of 5, I'm expecting lots of a group of 5 people working. So this is what is looking for. I look for it. Now, as a final, as I said, this assignment, final assignment, is 2-part. One is written. I need to read it, and then and it has to be submitted on week 13. And on a week 14, you will need to present it for me after I read it on a week 13. So you want to make sure this thing is done properly, because I will be evaluating according to a group of 5 or 6 or 7. Now,